Police pulled over a rusty old truck. Minutes later, they were surrounded by military SUVs. The rain had been falling steadily for hours when Officer Daniel Reeves spotted the rusted pickup truck weaving slightly across the center line. It was just past midnight on a deserted stretch of Highway 29 in rural Virginia. The officer had been working double shifts all week and was looking forward to heading home, but something about the truck's erratic movement caught his attention. He flipped on his lights and signaled for the vehicle to pull over. The truck continued for another quarter-mile before finally slowing and moving onto the shoulder. Daniel radioed in the stop, standard procedure, giving his location and the truck's license plate number. The dispatcher's voice crackled back through the rain-filled static. "Copy that, Officer Reeves. Running the plates now." Daniel approached cautiously, flashlight illuminating the truck's bed. It was empty, except for what appeared to be several large, tarp-covered crates secured with rope. The rain intensified, streaming down his uniform as he reached the driver's window. An elderly man with a weathered face and calloused hands rolled down the window, his expression calm but guarded. "License and registration, please," Daniel said, shining his light briefly into the cab. The interior was sparse and worn. A younger man sat in the passenger seat, perhaps in his 30s, with the same sharp eyes as the driver. "Evening, officer," the elderly man said, reaching slowly for his wallet. "Sorry about the driving. These old windshield wipers aren't what they used to be." As the man handed over his identification, James Wilder, age 72, from Charlottesville, Daniel's radio crackled again. The dispatcher's voice came through, but this time with an unusual edge. "Officer Reeves, be advised. Stand by for special instructions." Daniel frowned. In his 15 years on the force, he'd never received special instructions during a routine traffic stop. "Sir, I'll be right back," he told the elderly man, retreating to his patrol car. Once inside, he radioed back. "Dispatch, what's going on?" There was a pause before the dispatcher responded, her voice lower now. "Officer Reeves, you're instructed to return to your vehicle immediately and wait. Do not approach the truck again. Backup is en route. ETA 3 minutes. Daniel's instincts sharpened. He scanned his surroundings, suddenly aware of how isolated this stretch of highway was. Through his rearview mirror, he could see the two men in the truck sitting perfectly still, not talking to each other, not making any movements at all. Something wasn't right. Exactly 2 minutes and 40 seconds later, the quiet night erupted with activity. 4 black SUVs appeared seemingly out of nowhere, surrounding the pickup truck in a coordinated maneuver. Men in tactical gear poured out, weapons drawn, but not aimed directly at the truck. One vehicle stopped beside Daniel's patrol car, and a woman in plain clothes but with an unmistakable military bearing approached him. "Officer Reeves? Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Harmon, Department of Defense. I need you to stay in your vehicle, please." "Ma'am, this is my jurisdiction," Daniel began, but the look in her eyes stopped him. "Not anymore, it isn't," she replied quietly. "This is now a matter of national security." Through the rain-streaked windows, Daniel watched as the tactical team approached the pickup truck with practiced precision. To his surprise, the elderly man and his companion exited their vehicle without resistance, hands visible. There was no shouting, no tension. It almost looked expected. Lieutenant Colonel Harmon spoke into her radio, then turned back to Daniel. "Officer Reeves, I'm going to need you to come with us for a debriefing. It's standard procedure in situations like this." "Situations like what?" Daniel asked, his curiosity now thoroughly piqued. "That's part of what we'll discuss during the debriefing," she replied, her expression giving nothing away. As Daniel was escorted to one of the SUVs, he glanced back at the elderly man, who was now speaking calmly with another officer in plain clothes. Their eyes met briefly, and to Daniel's surprise, the old man nodded slightly, almost apologetically. The debriefing took place at a temporary command center established in an unused warehouse 20 miles away. Daniel sat across from Lieutenant Colonel Harmon and a stern-looking man who introduced himself only as Agent Weber. "Officer Reeves," Harmon began, "what you witnessed tonight is part of an ongoing operation. The men in that truck, James Wilder and his son Robert, are transport specialists working with our department." "Transport specialists?" Daniel repeated incredulously. "In that rusted-out pickup?" Sometimes the best cover is no cover at all, Agent Weber interjected. Who looks twice at an old man in a beat-up truck? Harmon opened a folder between them. What Mr. Wilder was transporting tonight is classified. Suffice it to say, it's technology critical to national security that needed to be moved without attracting attention. Daniel leaned back in his chair, pieces starting to connect. So when I called in the plates, it triggered our alert system, Harmon confirmed. We have certain identifiers in the system. When they're flagged, we respond immediately. Why tell me any of this? Daniel asked. Because we need your help, Weber said bluntly. The operation isn't over. For the next hour, they explained the situation. A foreign intelligence network had been tracking the Wilders, believing them to be transporting prototype military communication systems. In reality, what the Wilders carried was bait, convincing decoys designed to flush out the foreign operatives. We've identified 3 potential agents operating in your jurisdiction, Harmon explained, sliding photographs across the table. They've been monitoring police communications, which is why your routine stop tonight was actually perfect timing. It created a diversion that allowed our team to identify one of their surveillance positions. Daniel studied the photos, ordinary-looking men and women who could have been anyone in town. The reality of what he'd stumbled into was beginning to sink in. What do you need from me? He asked finally. Continue your normal patrol routine, Weber instructed. But we need you to make 3 specific traffic stops over the next few days. He pushed forward a list of license plates and locations. These are our operatives. They'll be expecting you. The stops need to look completely legitimate to anyone watching. Daniel hesitated, the weight of what they were asking settling on his shoulders. Is this legal? Shouldn't my captain be involved? Your captain has already been briefed at a need-to-know level, Harmon assured him. This comes from the highest authority, Officer Reeves. I understand your reservations, but I assure you these actions will help protect American lives and interests. The next morning, Daniel returned to his patrol duties with the list memorized. His first designated stop came shortly after noon, a blue sedan with Virginia plates. He pulled it over for failing to come to a complete stop at an intersection. The driver, a middle-aged woman with glasses, handed him a business card along with her license. On the back was written, Mockingbird secure, proceed as planned. The stop itself was unremarkable. Daniel issued a warning and returned to his patrol car. As he pulled away, he noticed a parked van across the street, its windows tinted. Someone was watching, just as Harmon had predicted. The second stop occurred the following day, a delivery truck with a taillight out. The driver, a young man in uniform, said nothing unusual but placed his hand briefly over a small pin on his lapel, the recognition signal Daniel had been told to look for. By the 3rd day, Daniel was starting to feel the strain of his double life. He kept expecting someone from his department to question these unusual stops, but no one did. Had they all been briefed? Or was he the only one involved? The uncertainty was wearing on him. The third vehicle was a motorcycle with out-of-state plates. Daniel pulled it over late in the afternoon near the county line. The rider, a woman in her 40s with short gray hair, removed her helmet and fixed Daniel with an intense stare. Officer, she said quietly as she handed over her license, be advised, the timeline has accelerated. Tonight, northbound checkpoint, 8 p.m. sharp. Daniel's heart raced as he processed this deviation from the plan. He hadn't been told about any checkpoint. Was this part of Harmon's operation, or something else entirely? He returned to the station after his shift and found a message waiting. Call maintenance about patrol car servicing. It was the emergency contact protocol Harmon had established. Daniel called from a secure line. The operation has been compromised, Harmon informed him without preamble. We're moving up the timetable. There's a warehouse at the following coordinates. Be there at 8 p.m. Come alone and in your personal vehicle. Lieutenant Colonel, Daniel said carefully, I received a message about a checkpoint tonight. Same time. There was a pause on the line. That wasn't from us. Who gave you this information? When Daniel described the motorcyclist, Harmon's voice grew tight. Officer Reeves, listen carefully. The woman you described is not one of ours. You've been contacted by the opposition. They're trying to use you to locate our operation. Daniel's world tilted. What do I do? Proceed to the checkpoint as if you're following their instructions. Our team will be in position. This could be our chance to identify their entire cell. The rain had returned by nightfall, reducing visibility to mere yards ahead on the rural roads. Daniel drove his personal truck slowly, stomach knotted with tension. The checkpoint turned out to be an abandoned gas station at a crossroads, its forecourt illuminated by a single flickering light. Daniel pulled in cautiously. No other vehicles were visible, but he sensed he was being watched. He stepped out of his truck, hand instinctively near his off-duty weapon concealed under his jacket. Officer Reeves. The voice came from the shadows of the old garage. The motorcyclist stepped forward, no longer in riding gear but dressed in dark clothing. Thank you for coming. What's this about? Daniel demanded, trying to project confidence. I think you already know, she replied. You've been assisting a Department of Defense operation involving transported materials. We need to know where those materials are now. And who exactly is we? Daniel asked, stalling for time, hoping Harmon's team was already in position. The woman smiled thinly. Let's just say we represent interests that believe such technology should be shared, not hoarded by a single government. Daniel took a step back, scanning the darkened perimeter. I think you have the wrong idea about me. No, Officer Reeves, we've been watching you. The specific traffic stops, the meeting at the warehouse, your contact with Lieutenant Colonel Harmon. Her smile faded. We have people inside your department. Did you really think your involvement would go unnoticed? Daniel's mind raced. If they had infiltrated the police department, how deep did this go? Was Harmon aware? Was this whole operation compromised from the start? Before he could respond, headlights swept across the forecourt as a vehicle approached, the rusted pickup truck driven by James Wilder. It pulled up beside Daniel's truck, and the old man emerged slowly, his face grim in the dim light. You're late, James, the woman said coldly. Traffic, Wilder replied, his voice steady despite the tension crackling in the air. You have what I asked for? The woman nodded toward the garage. The funds have been transferred. The authentication codes. Daniel stared at Wilder in growing horror. Was the old man a double agent? Had he been played by both sides? Wilder reached into his pocket and withdrew a small device. Everything's here. Prototype specs, access codes, deployment schedules. He tossed it casually to the woman, who caught it with practiced ease. James, Daniel said hoarsely, what are you doing? The old man didn't look at him. Sorry you got caught up in this, son. Wrong place, wrong time. The woman examined the device briefly, then nodded with satisfaction. Our employers will be pleased. She gestured to the shadows, and two men emerged, weapons visible at their sides. Take care of the loose ends. Daniel tensed, preparing to make a move for his weapon, when Wilder suddenly straightened, all trace of the frail old man gone from his bearing. Now! He barked into what appeared to be a wristwatch. The night erupted into orchestrated chaos. Black SUVs roared into the forecourt from multiple directions, tactical teams deploying with military precision. The woman and her companions were surrounded before they could react. Lieutenant Colonel Harmon emerged from the lead vehicle, approaching with purposeful strides. Right on schedule, James, she said approvingly before turning to the stunned woman. Helena Kaspar, you are being detained under the authority of the United States government for espionage and attempted theft of classified materials. As the tactical team secured the suspects, Daniel turned to Wilder in confusion. You were working with them all along. Triple agent, Wilder explained with a small smile. Been at this game for 40 years, son. These folks thought they had turned me 20 years ago. We've been feeding them carefully selected information ever since, building toward this moment. Harmon approached Daniel, her expression softening slightly. I apologize for keeping you in the dark, Officer Reeves. The fewer people who knew the full operation, the better our chances of success. So the traffic stops, the checkpoints, all of that was to convince them I was compromised? That I was helping Wilder as their double agent? Daniel asked, pieces finally falling into place. Exactly, Harmon confirmed. We needed them to believe they had assets inside both our operation and your police department. The device Wilder just handed over contains tracking software that will lead us to their entire network. Daniel watched as the suspects were loaded into vehicles. What happens now? For them, federal charges, closed proceedings. Wilder said wearily. For you go back to being a police officer, with our sincere thanks and the knowledge that you helped prevent sensitive military technology from falling into the wrong hands. And no one can ever know, Daniel realized aloud. That's the job sometimes, Wilder said, his weathered hand briefly touching Daniel's shoulder. The most important victories are the ones no one ever hears about. 2 days later, Daniel was back on patrol, the events at the gas station already taking on a dreamlike quality. He pulled over a speeding minivan, a genuine traffic violation, no coded messages or secret operations, just a harried mother late for her daughter's soccer practice. As he returned to his patrol car after issuing a warning, his phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Some battles are fought in the shadows so others can live in the light. Thank you, Officer Reeves. Daniel deleted the message immediately, knowing he would receive no further contact. He started his patrol car and pulled back onto the highway, rain beginning to fall once again on the windshield. To anyone watching, he was just another police officer on a routine patrol, and that's exactly how it needed to be.